Hi, welcome to my channel. Today, we're going to take on the idea of protecting your assets from the Medicaid Spend Down. I will explain what the spend down is, and we'll go over how some have been able to preserve hundreds of thousands of dollars. I am a long-term care planner that guides families through the transition to long-term care. I'm not an attorney. Grab a pen and take notes. The spend down is when you want to apply for a Medicaid program, and that program has asset limits. In this picture, the first box shows a total of $250,000 of countable assets. The second box is the total asset limit of $70,000. The third box shows us that if you subtract $70,000 from the total assets, you're left with $180,000. You will not qualify for the Medicaid program until you have only $70,000. So you must spend down $180,000. What you do with this $180,000 is very important. You can use it to pay for care, you can use it to purchase a cremation or a burial plan, or you can make repairs to your house or pay off debt. If you're single, you must spend down your assets to $2,000 in most cases. If you'll be living at home and receiving care in your home and it needs a new roof, you can purchase a new roof as part of the spend down. If you need a ramp to your front door, you can have one put in with those funds. If you don't need any home repairs or to pay off any debts, and you're married or a registered domestic partner who needs long-term care, you don't have to spend down all of your retirement savings on your spouse's care. This could leave you without the funds to maintain your home and your living expenses, or leave you without the funds to pay for your long-term care when you need it. Unfortunately, many individuals and families believe that they are forced to deplete their hard-earned assets to qualify for Medicaid, which can be devastating. That's why it's essential to understand the importance of planning ahead and learning if you can preserve assets from the spend down. While not every asset can be protected, there are several ways to protect assets, and you don't have to be wealthy to need asset protection. The less you have, the more important it is to protect. Anyone can face unexpected medical and long-term care expenses, and it's crucial to be prepared. Medicaid has strict eligibility requirements, and some individuals think that they can simply give away their assets to their family to avoid the Medicaid spend down. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard, well, I'll just give my house or maybe that extra car to my kids. Don't do that. Did you know that Medicaid has a 5-year look-back period? I have a video specifically on the look-back period, but essentially the state can and will review your financial transactions from the past 5 years to determine if you've made any disqualifying transfers. To be clear, you can give assets to your spouse, but assets that leave the confines of a marriage when you or your spouse need care can lead to severe penalties and even disqualify you from Medicaid. So let's explore some effective strategies and legal options available for protecting your assets from Medicaid spend down. One popular approach is to create a trust. Creating a trust gives the illusion that it is protected from Medicaid. There are different types of trusts created for different purposes. Most of them do not protect from counting those assets in the Medicaid asset limit. If you have a trust, pull out the trust documents and read them. Look for the words revocable or irrevocable or special needs. Irrevocable trusts for Medicaid can be very tricky, and if this is something you are interested in, seek the counsel of a Medicaid knowledgeable elder law attorney. Revocable trusts can be helpful for estate planning, but do not protect assets from being counted towards the Medicaid asset limit. Special needs trusts are used to transfer assets for a disabled child or a family member who relies on government benefits. If you have a trust and are unsure what type of trust you have, reach out to the attorney who created the trust or a Medicaid knowledgeable elder law attorney to assist you. Moving assets into a trust within the 5-year look-back period can cause a penalty because you're transferring assets. Be sure you are using a trusted Medicaid knowledgeable professional before you purchase a trust. I cannot tell you how many people have called me and said, I put all my assets in a trust to protect them from Medicaid. I have sent all of them to attorneys to get those dissolved so they could protect their assets. I'm not telling you to get a trust, nor am I telling you to dissolve a trust. I'm telling you, if you have a trust, have it reviewed with a Medicaid knowledgeable elder law attorney. Not all elder law attorneys know Medicaid law. As we have discussed, it's important to understand that you can't give assets away. Each state has different rules on how much you can transfer or give away to someone other than a spouse. It's not uncommon to want to pay an individual rather than a business to provide care for you, such as a neighbor or a child or a grandchild. And you can do that, but it's important to create an agreement for the care and document this agreement. The document you want to create is called a caregiver agreement. This is a formal contract between the caregiver and the person receiving care. The contract outlines the care that is provided, the frequency, and the compensation. Both parties need to sign and date the agreement. The purpose of this agreement is to provide documentation to the state that the funds are in exchange for care and not transferred or gifted in a way that would cause a penalty. Keep this contract because state will want to see a copy of it. Keep in mind, if you're currently being paid to care for a neighbor or a family member, you cannot backdate a caregiver agreement. Create one today, moving forward. I will provide a link to a caregiver agreement in the show notes. Another financial planning tool is a Medicaid compliant annuity to safeguard your assets. You may not have heard the word annuity or not know what it is. And an annuity is an insurance product. The insurance companies create many different types of annuities, and each type has a purpose. A Medicaid annuity is created to preserve assets, usually for the healthy spouse. Let me explain this concept before I go further. Money sitting in the bank is an asset. Money you get deposited monthly is income. Once that money sits in the bank, it becomes an asset. The Medicaid long-term care program asset limits apply to funds sitting. To be clear, they could be sitting at a bank or they could be sitting at a brokerage firm. The job of a Medicaid annuity is to change money that is sitting into moving money called income. Let's say, for example, you have $450,000 cash in the bank over the asset limit. Those funds could be put into a Medicaid annuity, and the funds would leave the bank and go to the insurance company. The insurance company would give back the money every month until the contract ended. If the contract was 5 years, the $450,000 in our example would be divided by 60 months. That's about $7,500 per month. And that's added to the income for the healthy spouse for those 5 years. I've had many clients put several $100,000 into Medicaid annuities. Once the healthy spouse receives that income, they can save it or they can invest it for their future expenses. Let me share with you a powerful example of someone who successfully protected their assets from Medicaid Spend Down. The client I worked with, we'll call Janet, had a spouse who was diagnosed with dementia. She took care of him at home for several years. But there came a time that the dementia caused changes in his personality and he began to try to escape. This is a safety concern. She knew it was time to make a change to memory care to keep him safe. Janet loved her spouse and decided to move into the memory care facility with him. This was an unusual situation and it increased her cost at the facility. However, she wanted to help him adjust to the new surroundings. The memory care facility required her to privately pay for 12 months before they would allow her to transfer to Medicaid paying for care. When she got close to the 12-month mark, she began preparing for the Medicaid application, and with our assistance, she moved much of her assets into Medicaid compliant annuities. As a result, Janet's spouse was able to qualify for Medicaid benefits while preserving a significant portion of her assets for her future needs. Dementia can make life very difficult. Janet moved out of the memory care facility when her spouse's dementia increased the difficulties she was experiencing. Medicaid annuities are a good way to preserve assets. Each state requires the annuity applications to be written to match your state's Medicaid annuity code. If the state code is not followed exactly, it could cause the Medicaid application to be denied. Another client I worked with, Catherine, had a daughter who was disabled, and with the help of an experienced estate planning attorney, Catherine created a special needs trust. She transferred some of her assets into the trust and designated her sister as the trustee. As a result, Catherine's spouse was able to qualify for Medicaid benefits while ensuring that their daughter's future was secure. In summary, protecting your assets from Medicaid Spend Down requires careful planning and expertise. Remember, planning ahead is the key to protecting your assets from Medicaid Spend Down. Too often, families wait until something goes wrong before they start looking for account numbers, insurance policies, to understand what documents are needed for the Medicaid application. We have created a document. We have learned how important it is to prepare ahead of time, specifically for long-term care. So we created the Asset Guard Organizer. It's a hands-on tool to help you take proactive steps to organize and protect the critical documents your family or trusted helper will need to manage your financial life when you can no longer do so yourself. It's a step-by-step system designed to unburden families caring for a loved one. Send me a message or make a comment in the show notes if you're interested in learning more about the Asset Guard Organizer. If you have any questions about the Medicaid Spend Down or you want to share your experience, please leave a comment below. We have a video called Your Medicaid Application Can Be Denied If You're Not Organized. It's full of very important concepts to understand when going through the Medicaid process. If necessary, watch it twice and take notes. Remember, I'm a guide and your situation might need an attorney. Not all elder law attorneys understand Medicaid law, and that could really cost you thousands, so do your homework. I have many more videos on their way. So take a minute and subscribe if you want to keep track of the videos that I'm going to be posting. What you're going through is incredibly difficult. You're headed in the right direction. Thank you for watching. See you next week.